On October 5th, 1713, French Enlightenment thinker Denis Diderot is born in the town of Langres in the Champagne region of northeastern France. He goes on to change the world as the co-founder and chief editor of Encyclopédie, a 28-volume reference work that was an attempt to compile all the world's knowledge. Diderot's Herculean undertaking continues to impact the world in the Internet age. His father was a master cutler in Langres. Diderot's formal education began at the Jesuit college in his hometown. His intelligence and dedication enabled him to continue his studies at the University of Paris, where he received a Master of Arts in 1732 at age 18. Diderot's original intention was apparently to enter the clergy, but at some point during his studies he changed course and began studying law. However, he found he was more interested in languages, literature, philosophy, and higher mathematics, so he abandoned the law to focus on those pursuits. This apparently did not sit well with his father back in Langres, who refused thereafter to support him financially. Around 1741, Diderot met two people who would profoundly impact his life. One was Antoinette Champion, whom he would marry 2 years later against his father's wishes. The couple had 4 children, but only one, daughter Angélique, survived. The other person Diderot met around 1741 was fellow Enlightenment icon Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who had moved from his hometown of Geneva, Switzerland, to Paris. Their close friendship helped shape one another's ideas until a falling out 15 years later. The oldest surviving encyclopedia came nearly 1700 years before Diderot's, with Roman author Pliny the Elder's 10-volume work called Natural History. It covered a broad range of topics from mathematics to botany to architecture. Pliny began publishing the work in AD 77. However, he was killed in the famous eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79 while attempting to rescue a friend in the city of Stabiae, located a few miles from the city of Pompeii. His nephew, Pliny the Younger, posthumously published the final version of the work. The first modern encyclopedia was Englishman Ephraim Chambers' Cyclopaedia. The 2-volume set was first published in 1728 and was subtitled Universal Dictionary of Arts and Sciences. 6 more editions appeared over the next 23 years and included additional volumes. It was translated into Italian and published in Venice in 1748, becoming the first complete encyclopedia in Italian. Denis Diderot's Encyclopédie initially began as an effort to translate Chambers' work into French. It then expanded to become much larger in scope than either Pliny the Elder's ancient work or Ephraim Chambers' modern one. The first edition of Encyclopédie was published in 1751, with supplements, revised editions, and translations published over the next 21 years. The work was co-edited by Jean-Laurent d'Alembert until 1759, when Diderot assumed full editing responsibilities. Diderot enlisted experts to write articles for his encyclopedia. Enlightenment thinkers like his good friend Rousseau, celebrated free speech advocate Voltaire, and separation of powers proponent Montesquieu all contributed. Diderot himself penned articles on topics as varied as music, political theory, literature, history, economics, religion, science, and philosophy. Renowned veterinary surgeon Claude Bourgelat contributed articles on animals, including a practical study on the shoeing of horses. The most prolific contributor was Louis de Jaucourt, who wrote 17,266 articles between 1759 and 1765, or about 8 per day, representing a full 25% of the Encyclopédie. An important component that Diderot added to later editions was an index, making finding information in the massive 28-volume set much easier. An additional feature of the work was the inclusion of images. In fact, 11 of the 28 volumes were dedicated exclusively to more than 3,000 quality illustrations, which are still prized by historians today. Diderot's Encyclopédie can be seen as the ultimate expression of the Enlightenment, and his hope was that his work could someday democratize knowledge. That is, he hoped to make information readily available to the masses. In many ways, the internet has accomplished this in the 21st century, in no small part because of Diderot's efforts more than 2.5 centuries ago. Diderot, however, made relatively little money off his life's work, despite the many years dedicated to the enterprise and its long-term influence. Interestingly, Russian Empress Catherine the Great was an admirer, and hearing of Diderot's financial struggles, purchased his personal library of 3,000 books for a large sum in 1773. Many of those texts had been used to compile his encyclopedia. She also informed Diderot that the library could remain in his possession in Paris. Then, she appointed him custodian of the books and even paid him a yearly salary to take care of them. To thank Catherine for her generosity, Diderot traveled to St. Petersburg, Russia, and stayed for 5 months. In 1784, Denis Diderot died in Paris of a pulmonary embolism at age 70, in the house Catherine the Great had put at his disposal as custodian of his library. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 1813, Shawnee Indian chief Tecumseh is killed during the War of 1812's Battle of the Thames. In 1877, Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce surrenders to the U.S. Army, stating, "I will fight no more forever." In 1892, 4 members of the notorious Dalton Gang are killed in a bank robbery in Kansas. In 1919, in Parma, Italy, automobile pioneer Enzo Ferrari competes in his first car race. In 1947, Harry Truman makes the first ever televised presidential address from the White House. In 1962, Radio Luxembourg plays Love Me Do, marking the first time a Beatles song is on the radio. In 2011, Apple's innovative co-founder and CEO Steve Jobs dies of cancer at age 56. And now it's time for our Today in History quiz. Which of the following baseball players did not hit 3 home runs in one World Series game? Babe Ruth, Reggie Jackson, Joe Carter, or Pablo Sandoval? Think you know the answer? Drop your guesses in the comments below. Find out if you're right next time on Today in History. You made it through Today in History. Nice work. Now treat yourself. Click the video on the right for what happened yesterday in history. Still can't get enough? The link on the left's got the whole playlist buffet. Want to make history a daily habit? Click my face in the middle to subscribe.